Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. When we talk about the source, many imagine something distant, unreachable, like some divine power hidden somewhere up there in the heavens. But in reality, the source is not outside of us. It is within. It is our inner axis, our fundamental connection to life, to the flow of energy. Every human being has this channel of communication. Some call it the soul. Others call it their inner light. In simple terms, it is a state where you live in resonance with yourself, where your thoughts, feelings, and actions are not pulling in different directions but sounding in unison. But for most people, this channel gradually becomes blocked. Since childhood, we have been programmed with beliefs. Life is a struggle. Money comes only through hard labor. You have to suffer to deserve happiness. Instead of trusting ourselves, we are taught fear. Fear of being left without a job, without money, without society's approval. Step by step, we drift away from the source, ceasing to hear its quiet voice. Even physically, this can be described. Many ancient teachings spoke of the pineal gland, a small organ deep within the brain that is responsible for the connection to our higher self. In a symbolic sense, that is where the channel to the source runs. When we live in fear and follow other people's programs, it seems to shrink and get blocked. What happens next? We start making decisions not from within, not from our own desires, but from imposed shoulds. We work where we are miserable because we have to. We associate with those who drag us down because it is expected. We spend our lives surviving instead of actually living. But the source never disappears. It is always inside us. You just need to slow down, stop, and step out of the endless race for even a minute, and its voice can be heard again. It is very quiet, without pressure and without fear. It speaks through simple sensations. Do you feel light here or do you feel heavy? And this voice is always honest. Returning to the source is not about complex rituals or retreating into a cave to meditate for years. It is much simpler. It is about hearing yourself again and trusting yourself. The first thing to understand is that life adjusts to your internal state. When you are in a state of anxiety, you start making decisions out of fear, and then the events around you begin to confirm that fear. When you are in a state of trust, the world seems to build bridges right under your feet. Look at how the "there is never enough money" program works. It is ingrained from childhood. To get something, you must work until you are exhausted. Money doesn't come easily, and a person lives in constant tension. Even if money comes in, the fear of losing it remains inside. But money is a flow, and flow does not tolerate blockages. The more we hold on to the fear of what if there isn't enough, the more it blocks the movement. Returning to the source begins with acknowledging that money is one of the most endless resources. It comes where there is energy, joy, and creativity. The world always reflects your internal setting. If you live in trust, if you take steps not out of fear but out of desire, money finds you through unexpected opportunities, people, and ideas. And here, it is important to learn to listen to your inner compass. It never explains things through logic. It always speaks through sensations. Lightness is a sign that the path is yours. Heaviness and resistance are signals that you have drifted from the source and are moving according to someone else's program. Yes, utility bills, loans, and expenses exist, but that is not about the source, that is about the system. And the more you obsess over these thoughts, the more you lose yourself. When you are connected to the source, solutions come on their own. How to earn, where to find support, where to direct your efforts. You stop being a victim of circumstances because you understand that you create the circumstances yourself. Returning to yourself is about inner peace, about every decision coming from your own desires rather than from fear. And then, life stops being a race to survive and becomes a movement in your own rhythm. Why am I talking about money now? Because this is a topic that concerns absolutely everyone. And I am sure someone in the comments will write, "What source? Money is something different. It has nothing to do with spirituality." But let's break it down. We live in a world of matter. Here, everything can be touched, felt, bought, and exchanged. Here, purchases bring us joy. Here, we need housing and it must be paid for. We have bills we are obligated to pay for electricity, water, gas, phone, and internet. We use transportation, groceries, and clothing, and all of this costs money. And this is where the misconception arises that a spiritual person must live somewhere in the mountains, in a cave, wearing rags, and eating roots. But that is not true. It is an illusion. Spirituality does not equal poverty. Spirituality is an internal connection with yourself and with the source, while money is a tool for energy exchange that functions in the material world. You shouldn't confuse spirituality with having no money. They are completely different things. You can be a conscious person, live in harmony, and at the same time have prosperity, enjoy shopping, travel, provide for your family, and create comfort around you. There is no contradiction in this. After all, the source manifests in both the spiritual and the material. It flows through everything, through inspiration, through creativity, through the joy of living. Money is just one form of energy through which the world responds to your internal state. Therefore, spirituality does not deny matter. Spirituality gives you awareness, and matter gives you the opportunity to experience this awareness here and now, in a body, in a home, among loved ones, in joy and abundance. When we talk about returning to the source, it is important to understand one simple truth. You yourself are the creator of your reality. No external force governs your life, not accidents and not other people's decisions. Everything you see around you is a reflection of what is born within you. We are used to thinking that life happens to us, that someone decides for us, that it just happened, that circumstances are stronger. But if you look closer, it is precisely your thoughts, your emotions, and your choices that trigger the chain of events. The source is not something distant, sitting on a cloud. The source is inside you. It manifests when you choose not fear but trust, not complaints but action, not doubts, but a step forward. Each of your decisions is a small act of creation. Yes, programs from childhood ingrained in us. You must work hard to have money. Happiness must be earned. Behave normally. People are watching you. What will the neighbors say? But the Creator breaks these frames. He understands. Reality is not built through suffering, but through internal state. When you act from a place of abundance, confidence, and joy, reality begins to adjust to you. The Creator is someone who takes responsibility for their life, someone who understands, I am not a battery for the system. I am the generator of energy myself. In that moment, the fear of being left without money, without support, without a future disappears. Because the realization arrives, everything you need is always inside. The external only reflects your internal power. We often look for answers outside. We ask books, religions, leaders, and experts. Who am I? What should I do? Where is my path? And in that moment, we forget that the answer is already within us. Returning to yourself means stopping the search outside for what has always been inside. This is not about moving into the woods or living in solitude. It is about an honest conversation with yourself. What do I really want? Where is my true feeling? What fills me and what only takes away my strength? When you return to yourself, everything changes. You stop playing roles that others have imposed on you. You begin to hear your own voice, quiet, but very clear. You suddenly realize, you don't need to be like anyone else. You are not a cog in the system, not a battery, not a pawn. You are a creator. Returning to yourself is a return to the source, and the source is always simple. It is in your breath as you calmly inhale and exhale. It is in gratitude for the smallest moment. It is in choosing joy instead of fear. It is in allowing yourself to be yourself. And in that moment, you feel it, and everything around you aligns. Problems begin to resolve more easily. Money comes through new paths. People are drawn to you because they feel your power. The source is you. And returning to yourself means remembering that you are the creator. I want to tell you, this is not just content and not just words. What I am sharing is what has been within me my whole life. Since childhood, even before I knew how to explain everything with words, I knew that the world was structured differently than what we are told. I remember my first moments of awareness when I saw not just people around me, but programmed people, as if they were living according to someone else's script. I tried to share this, but back then, I had no like-minded people. When I talked about coincidences, glitches in the program, and strange phenomena, acquaintances would answer, "That's just a coincidence." But inside I knew for a fact, it was not a coincidence. I saw how a thought comes to life. I would think about a person and suddenly they would be mentioned in a conversation, or I would meet them. As soon as I let go of my attention, the person would seem to disappear from my life. I saw how words and emotions become reality. And even if others said coincidence, I understood that it works differently. I experimented. I read books, stupid ones and wise ones, superficial and profound. I went through moments of transformation, insights, and enlightenments. I experienced it all. And I changed. I saw how my life changes when I choose not fear, but the voice within. That voice is always calm. It doesn't argue, it doesn't pressure. It simply says, "I am." And every time I listened to it, I found the answers. I wish for every one of you to hear this specific voice. Not the emotions, not the imposed fears, not the alien scripts, but what comes from within. Because there are no identical stories, no two identical lives, no two identical paths. In business, there are no two identical starts. In life, there are no two identical decisions. Even if you take someone else's checklist, the result will still be different. Because you have your own book, your own pen, your own story. Do not look at others' successes and failures as a benchmark for yourself. You are individual, and your power lies in intention, not in desire. Desire is I want, but I do not have. Intention is, it will be so, because I am. This is the most honest and conscious path. Thank you for being with me on this channel. I wish you the best possible branch of reality. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.